First game of round 14 is in the books, and the scores are up, but the stats aren't there. So I've seen a few people mention that it's happened on their screen, but it hasn't to me yet. So we'll just go through my notes on this one, that Knights versus Manly game. But you can see the scores were pretty good. We have 10 players there go 50 plus with 4 scores above 70, which is awesome. And those guys deserve shout outs because they were absolutely incredible in this one. Olakau'atu, 93, Sharpe, 81, Kaipis Ball, 80, just killing me. And then Dane Gagai with a 72. Had a really nice price as well. So awesome work for those players. Now, with Olakau'atu and his score, this was the massive one for him. But we will go through the Knights first, and then we'll go through the Manly boys based off my analysis here. So just remember, guys, the Knights are good till around 18 they miss, and Manly they miss 16 and 19. So it can be helpful in both categories there in different ways. For the Knights, they did find some life here, but Manly, they really stopped playing in that second half, in my opinion. They were awful, and yeah, it definitely looks more like how they played against the Panthers, the Knights, in round 12 in that second half, where they were able to get heaps of meters and find a little bit of attack with some of their weapons. Now, Kaipis Paul, this one kills me, so I'll get this one out of the way first. He is a top tier keeper. Was averaging 54.5 before this, priced at like 51. Don't know how that hasn't changed too much. As I was saying, like just the random 40 odd that would kind of slow him down in that cash generation and that build up. But he absolutely tackles everything. He has an offload in his game. Unfortunately, some easy offloads there, and he has found some attack in the last couple of weeks, running a good line and being in the right place at the right time as well. So very tough not owning him with that awesome 80 score. Now, the edge is a strong position. You could definitely still buy next week, but we do have guys like Preston returning, and if KPP continues the way he's played the last few, he'll very quickly get up to that Preston price, and he'll be near that like 720 following this week, which isn't too bad for someone that has high 60s and 80s in their game like we've seen here. So well done to any owners of him. That one definitely hurts. As much as this game was pretty good for me fantasy wise, I would have loved a piece of KPP. For Sharpe, what a roller coaster it's been for him. We really do want him at 6 regularly. It just helps with those base stats. Something that we miss out a bit at 1, like you've seen with Ponga. They need to absolutely smash a team for the fullback to do well in their system and just the quality that they're throwing out there. So at least Sharpe gets that bit of base in his tackles, and then gets an opportunity to run, being usually the 6 or the 7 would get the ball before heading out back to the 1. So he's getting more opportunities in attack that way, in open play and broken play there to get offloads and score some tries, as you can see here. But he's just so electric in attack when he gets that opportunity. Surprisingly enough, with the 22, the 31, with the 2 massive scores, near 100 and then the 81, his average still stays pretty close to that number at 57 with the up and down nature. And he still will continue to be up and down. If you don't own him, it has been a tough one and is still definitely a purchase next week, given the fact that he has that fullback and the half duel and plays in that halves position, which gets that base, which is what we're loving about someone like JC. The difference with Jaden is that he does get the goals and a bit more of the kicking in general play than what Sharpe does. So yeah, very fun pick. Dane Gagai there, he's really stepped up for buys recently, and surprisingly enough, it's still at 539 after some good weeks in there, but not massive weeks that have kind of pushed him over the edge to be a big price riser, and that's what this week did with the 72. Really got to a cheap price at 539, and now is showing his stuff, and he looked awesome last night. Apparently there was Whisperer put up that Barry Tui came out and said that I think that the Knights are going to decline his 400k option for next year. He's still pretty close to their best attacking weapon, surprisingly enough. So he doesn't look like he's slowing down. He is getting older, but he still looks great. It's just been the system and the team that I think has slowed him down this year more than him just dropping off. His price is about to soar, so well done to owners there. Now Lucas, who was back to more of a normal game in this one, which was good to see. He didn't miss as many tackles. Looked like got that good cut next to his eye. Just kind of kept bleeding all game. Looked badass is what I was thinking there. And he was my vice captain, so I'm glad that he picked up the 56. And if anything happens to my boy Terrell May, yes, I captained May, then it won't be too bad at least. But hey, vice-captaining Sharpe, one of those guys would have been a little bit more fun. Now, Ponga and Greg the leg, they both got 45s. Both look good at times, especially Marzu in that second half with a good line breakdown there. Ponga carrying that ankle injury doesn't sound great at all, and he came out reeling after he got absolutely smacked a couple of times by Olakau'atu was one of them, and did come up limping, but thankfully not long after that was able to run it off and be okay. But apparently only trained in captain's run, so with Ponga, definitely don't look to buy over the next bit. If you lose this spot for Origin, maybe think about it, but I still don't rate it too much. And then Greg, I just feel like with him, he's just a little bit under that top tier wing fullback. So they're both easy holds if you did keep Greg. I just wouldn't be looking to buy someone like him when you have other guys, Drinkwater, a bit more of an up and down nature as well, but it doesn't have the buy coming up in round 18. So guys like Teddy, guys like JC, guys like Sharpe, you'd all want before Greg. Now Manly had a really good first half. They decided to follow this team and tip as well. Disgusting. Does DCE make Origin? Is going to be the question as well with this side. Now, Olakau'atu, this is much more like it. It's good to see him go back-to-back great weeks, which hasn't happened really all year. And this is the upside he possesses. Like, we know we're going to have the good scores. We know we're going to have the bad scores. It's just, can he, go 60 and then go down to 35, which is what's kind of been happening, and then go a couple of low weeks. Now he's finally had the two good ones and he looks much better. And them giving him early ball, giving him ball in space, giving him ball in broken play, he is so strong. He can get through 2 and 3 defenders like you saw there. Yeah, not even like close to the line. You had sort of still 6, 7, 8 meters to get through and a few players to get through as well. So he was spectacular with his 93. I'm glad I bought in Supercoach, but more on Supercoach later when we get to Lehigh Hopewadi as to the luck that can change seasons. But yeah, congrats to Olo with that one. Do you look to buy? Probably a bit awkward now after back-to-back. He'll have a lower break even. People will jump on after seeing the massive one, but we know that can change very quickly. A couple of weeks ago, he looked pretty awful, and then he moved into these two recent ones. All right, Jazz Savanga had to do it. Shout out to Frosty in the comments saying this is why I didn't buy Jazz, that he was back on the bench, but he ended up starting, and looks like he's going to be a pretty important factor in the middle. And that's where we wanted him. We didn't want him a hooker. We wanted him running the footy. We wanted him working through the middle and using his ball playing as well at times. And he did get injured in this one. That didn't look great on the elbow, and he strapped it within an inch of his life on that the bicep and the forearm there. But yeah, I had to give you the shout out, Frosty, for saying that. He's averaging at like 57 since I bought him and made a lot of cash, and is so important for our teams, especially in that hooker position, which is pretty tough. And to buy him very, very cheap, it was you kind of just had to buy him, I thought. The last few weeks. This week was a harder one, given he was named off the bench. But last week and the week before were the times to definitely jump on. So that's Tavanga. Had to say it. Sorry, mate. But yeah, he can just go harder in lesser minutes. And that was the thing with this one. He played almost 1 point a minute, which was a bit of an improvement based on the massive minutes he'd played the previous weeks. But he just is an accumulator in the middle there. He gets in, he tackles hard, and then he gets decent run meters as well. So it's great to see him hurt him. He got hurt and then continued playing. And that was the same with Garrick as well. Like, a little unlucky at times. I thought he was going to score at the end there. And then, he gets tackled and he comes up holding his knee. I'm like, oh no. We just can't have these just before the big bye weeks. Like, you need them to get through them there. If they're going to miss a week or two, it needs to be during that game or at the end of that game with a bye next week. That's what we want. But Garrick, thankfully we got through that one. He ended up kicking the goal not long after once they scored. Since I've bought him though, he hasn't got 50, which is a little bit annoying, but a very respectable 47 in this one for his price point. It's above where he's at, which is great news there. But that one where he made the half break on the right and then he had Greg on him, was the 2-on-1. And then his boy Falalo on the right-hand side there got tripped up. And so Garrick throws it out the back to where his player should have been. And he was on the ground and the ball ends up back and into an error. So things like that were tough. And then, I thought he's going to score, but a great try saver at the end to get him down. So there's going to be opportunities. And I thought this was going to be the week, given he was going to be up against Schiller, which he did burn him in that first half and ended up getting that nice try assist on the inside. So. And the goal kick, which is always good. But wasn't to be. Moved over to the left-hand side for a bit. And that was the thing with Burbo. With Hopewade going down, Burbo went straight out to the centres and played there the rest of the game and ended up with a dirty 20, especially coming up against Dan Gagai, who was absolutely on fire with, well into the teens for his tackle breaks. Now for Burbo with that, not very fun, unlucky, just hold on. The toughest one here is actually going to be Lehigh Hopewade. Now this is a literal definition of being lucky and unlucky in fantasy and Supercoach sometimes. Like, I just wanted to tell you my story. I feel like I'm having a pretty good week. I've got Olakau'atu. I'm sitting there with, don't have Fletcher Sharpe myself, but Olakau'atu. I've got Garrick. Garrick gets his early try assist. Olakau'atu scores a try. Hopewade, I've killed it the last few weeks with him. Bought him, got the double. Scored great last week, back-to-back tons. And then he goes over for an early try here. And then he's concussed himself rather than scoring the try. He's knocked it on, and then he's out for this game. He's then out for the really important week that we need him next week. So it stuffs you up this week with the 0, and then out next week, and then has to buy the following. So he's likely to be a sell at this point. So super unlucky sometimes how this game works. You think you're on to a guy, you pick him at the right time, score some tries, then gets moved to fullback, which is his preferred position, and you're on the right train, and then you get kicked basically. So that is fantasy, and that is Supercoach sometimes, and there are weeks that you can be on the lucky side of it, and there are weeks like this where you're on the other side, and literally the more times you can be on the right side of this type of luck, the higher you go up the leaderboard. Some years it's your year, sometimes it's not, and you might have a stretch of 4 weeks and then you have a bad week, and if that's 4-1, you're pretty good. But if you're 2-2, then you're well behind. So that's where I wanted to end this one, guys. Nice and short and sharp, as we do here on a Friday morning. The sun's out, so we're happy as Larry, and see how we go for the rest of the week. And it was a really, really big content week. There's a lot of big questions and 2, 3, and 4 trades trying to get guys in. It was actually, yesterday was the highest views day in over a month, so pretty interesting how that one played out. I think most people were pretty well set coming into 12, and then it's like, okay, what do we do next with lack of trades and all that type of stuff. So we'll see what next week throws up as well. Probably a little bit less, but thanks to everyone for jumping in the comments and watching the videos and listening to the podcast. You're all legends. Thanks so much, and we'll catch you in the next one.